My seemingly perfect fiancé, 32 male, cheated on me, 28 female, when blackout drunk with a coworker in a toilet at an event we were both at. In February of this year, my fiancé and I had just celebrated our 2-year anniversary and Valentine's Day. We were in a great spot. We always were. We have always had a beautiful and deep relationship. We can't get enough of each other. My fiancé is an extremely sensitive guy. He is attentive and very emotionally available. He never goes out with his mates, or if he does, he begs that I come along with him because he just loves to have me around. He's worked at the same place for 10 years and was changing careers, and therefore having a farewell with his current workplace. He is a manager who has a great relationship with all of his colleagues. Prior to our relationship, he tended to date lots of women he worked with. However, since we were together, all of his workmates followed us on social media. He would call me at work, and him and his female colleagues would be in the background commenting on our relationship, about how much he loved me, that he was punching above his weight, and knew he was stepfather to my 2 children. Here's where it all falls. He desperately wants me to come to his farewell. He's begging me daily for weeks. I personally am not keen on the idea because I'm a bit socially anxious, and I feel it should be his moment with his colleagues, not having to introduce me to a bunch of people I won't even see again. He pleads and says he will book us a hotel. The city where he works is an hour and a half away from home, and so I reluctantly decided to go. We get to the hotel. He brings a male colleague to have some drinks before we go to the farewell, and this relaxed me and I became excited for the night ahead, assisted by a few vodkas. I go to the farewell and meet all of his colleagues. They all clearly adore him. He's just one of those guys. He's a people person with an infectious personality and just a nice person. No ego about him at all. You could tell everybody was truly devastated he was leaving. He is proudly showing me off to all of his colleagues, and I end up sitting at a table with a few females. One of them, let's call her Jessica. I didn't know lots of people here, but Jessica had come up previously. I had previously seen some work emails between my fiancé and her, which were somewhat flirty. Lots of emojis, and my fiancé wrote in one of them, "Thanks, my love." I brought this up with him because I felt it was inappropriate. If I had a boss and they called me my love, that wouldn't sit well with me. He apologized and said this was just how he interacted with lots of females at his workplace. More so the 50 to 60-year-old women he managed. However, the terminology had slipped into an interaction with a 22-year-old. I was very put off by it. However, it absolutely is how he speaks to people. And also, this girl was not somebody I was intimidated by, nor did I think he would be attracted to. So, that is the only context I have to the relationship before this farewell. While sitting at the table with her, my fiancé sits with his hand in my lap, touching me and trying to make sure I'm comfortable, and I am observing her mannerisms. She is playing with her hair and constantly adjusting her dress around her breast and being generally flirtatious with my partner. I just see this as a typical work crush that a young female has on her male older boss. As the night progresses, everybody is feeding my fiancé drink after drink. He hasn't binge drank since we have been together, and I didn't think he was too intoxicated. However, he was having shots, some of which Jessica purchased for him and I. I'm just feeling like I can't really get drunk and that I'm being a drag on his big night. I tell him I want to go back to the hotel and let him enjoy the rest of the night with his friends, and he begs me to stay. This happens a few times until I eventually get an Uber. He walks me to the Uber and kisses me, tells me how much he adores me, thanks me for coming, and tells me he won't be too far behind me getting back to the hotel. As a joke, I say, "Don't go cheating on me with Jessica," to which we both laugh and he's like, "Absolutely not, I love you so much." A few hours later, he is carried into our hotel room by 3 colleagues, 1 male and 2 females. No Jessica. He's completely out of it and throwing up until morning. I've never seen him like this. I have to leave the hotel early to pick up my kids from their dads. As I'm leaving the hotel, I get a text from an unknown person. The context of the message turns my blood cold. It essentially says that my fiancé sexually assaulted his partner, Jessica. It's this long, horrible message about if I'm in a monogamous relationship, I need to know about my fiancé's behavior last night, saying he took advantage of his status and sexually assaulted a vulnerable coworker. I asked him to call me immediately to tell me what happened. He eventually does. He says that Jessica returned home from the night out completely distressed. That at the start of the night, my fiancé made a comment about her looking hot, which made her uncomfortable, and she wanted to leave but decided not to. He says that after I left, my fiancé dragged her into a bathroom, kissed her, told her he wanted to f*** her. She tried to push him off her and left the bathroom. Instead of leaving the venue, she then goes and sits in a booth with him and talks to him. The boyfriend says that there were witnesses and that he also did the same to other girls that night. I eventually speak to Jessica, who echoes what her boyfriend says. However, she says there were no other girls involved. She says he dragged her in the toilets and kissed her while she said, "But what about your fiancé?" over and over. I am very kind to her and understanding. However, question why, if she was offended by him at the start of the night, did she stick around and buy drinks, etc. She says there was no comment at the start of the night. She also says that there was absolutely no context to it and that she felt it was just a drunk spur of the moment thing. I speak to witnesses from the night. They all say it was her who led him into the toilets. However, his best male colleague says at one point he told my fiancé to stop flirting with Jessica, which he awkwardly laughed off. This was before the toilet situation. Basically, when I confronted my fiancé about it, he didn't remember one single thing. His skin was yellow and he was vomiting for days. He tells me that before he met me, when he would drink, he would often black out and behave completely out of character, which is why he no longer drank during our relationship. He had never cheated before, but he would act violently and break things, get in fights, etc., and then wake up the next day not remembering. This was all validated by his friends, and also since speaking with my psychologist, he believes that due to the alcohol, his depression medication, Seroquel, and the history of alcoholism in his family, that it is a high possibility he truly doesn't remember. Another potentially important factor is that his father passed away a few months earlier from alcoholism, and he was still struggling with this. My fiancé vowed to stop drinking. Whilst he barely did in the first place, he hasn't in 6 months. He allows me to see his phone, and he has cut ties with everybody from that workplace. He seems as completely heartbroken and confused about it as I was. Our relationship is good. He is patient and understanding. However, I'm still constantly riddled with the sickening imagery of him in a toilet with another woman trying to f*** her. It's 6 months on, and I'm still broken about it. I'm so torn about whether due to the prior context of flirty texts that I am missing something. Surely he wouldn't beg for me to come to the farewell and beg me to stay if he had any intent of cheating on me. It's hard with every cheating story I read on here. I'm trying to find some comfort in this getting easier and us getting past this. However, I'm constantly seeing once a cheater, always a cheater, and drunk actions or sober thoughts. And I just can't shake the feeling that I'm missing something and that I'm going to be hurt again. Other than this one isolated situation, he has been everything I've ever dreamt of. Here are some genuine comments in response to this story. It very much sounds like your boyfriend was sexually assaulted by Jessica. From your account of events, she got him drunk and led him to the bathroom, and since you have no idea what happened there, I would not assume your boyfriend did anything wrong. Jessica lied to her boyfriend to save face after probably being turned down by your man. She sounds like a straight-up predator, and if the genders were reversed, I don't think you'd be looking at your significant other as a cheater. Just some food for thought. Yeah, I have pondered this a lot too. When my fiancé was first told of the events, he refused to believe it for days. He said he felt like he had been drugged or that she was making it up. I don't believe he was perfectly innocent at the party given he was told to stop flirting, but I don't think it's impossible that she seduced him. Why would she go and sit in a booth with him after it if she was so traumatized by it and then go home to her boyfriend saying she was assaulted? Just hard when I only really have her word against his empty memory. I know guys this has happened to who didn't even have girlfriends or significant others of any kind, and they still were devastated to find out they were raped the next day. I also have had to end friendships with women who were purposefully preying on my drunk male friends who had the same tolerance as your fiancé with alcohol. 100% this sounds like rape. Jessica seems like she set herself up to play the victim when she got caught, because witnesses are saying it's not a she said he said situation, and that your fiancé was the one being taken advantage of. If I were in the same position, I'd support your fiancé because he might be struggling with this just as much as you are, and it's better to figure it out together and trust your fiancé than trust a liar who's trying to save face after she got caught. I kinda gotta agree with the comments on this one, OP. I think she's a predator, and people at the party can attest to it. Your fiancé begged you to be with him. He begged you to stay at the party longer. Of course, him wanting around doesn't mean he can't be a cheater, but she was acting all flirtatiously and getting him, and you, drunk for a chance at some bathroom fun. At least, that's what all this sounds like to me. Good luck. I need to send a letter of thanks to Dyson. I discovered my wife, 49 female, of 17 years. 18-month affair when I updated our fan filter on the app it uses. Here's some background. We've been married 17 years with no children of our own. She's been divorced once and had 2 daughters that I helped to raise, now 28 and 23, prior to our marriage. We've really only had minor bumps and issues, in my opinion. we've had an open door type of communication with each other, whether it be work issues or venting or sexual issues or just how we are feeling. Often we will just talk on the couch about life and philosophy in general. I felt that we had a great connection and a pretty heavy, fulfilling sex life. We are both in good shape and maintain a healthy lifestyle. I work in the medical field, and due to things being what they are, have been putting in a decent amount of overtime over the past 5 months. She works in a legal consultancy and has been working from home for the past 5 months, which has made things a bit distant, but on our days off, we are tight. Changed the filter on the Dyson fan in our bedroom last night. Asked my wife if I could use her phone to update the app in order to reset the change filter alert. Mine was on the charger next to the front door. I noticed she had put on a pattern unlock and kind of wanted to ask her what that was about. As I was finding the app on her phone, a notification for Snapchat popped up. My stomach dropped immediately as I read the small tag. "I'll bring the special toy," it said. My brain understood the words, but my mind just stopped functioning. She asked what was the matter after, I guess, several minutes of me just sitting and staring at the bedroom fan. My wife has an obligatory quarterly out-of-town meeting that puts her 2 states away for 5 days every business quarter. I knew it was about this coming trip Monday. I've perused Reddit for years anonymously. I've read hundreds of stories that began like this, and never once have I thought of being me that would sit on my bedroom floor and be in such a cold, dumbfounded state. I recovered and said, "Oh, just getting info about the IPN router. That's how the fan communicates through the app." I have a Chromebook that she logged into Facebook yesterday. I took a week's vacation short notice. My supervisor is a cool chick, and once I laid it out what I may have discovered and have to do, I'm going to need the time off. I've been up all night reading her chats. She left to go to the office just now, and I made sure the Google location history was on and find my phone was active. I'm so suspicious of everything she does now, I can't look at myself in the mirror. She doesn't know I saw the message notification. I logged on to the messaging system that Verizon uses and have signed in under her number and my name. There are at least 15,000 that date back to February of last year. Messages, memes, flirty pics, and some X-rated ones too. She stopped texting him this way about 3 months ago. Didn't stop texting him, but stopped using the message app through Verizon. I'm guessing they switched to the Snapchat because it's discreet. I'm not on any social media in any way, shape, or form. I am clueless. I just figured out that you can't log into Snapchat through Facebook. But it just takes an email and password. And she has used this Chromebook to do that. Hell, she used it just 3 nights ago lying in bed next to me rubbing my back while I went to sleep. She messaged him and sexted him lying next to me. It's a younger man from work. He is married and has 3 young children. He and his wife have Facebook. I've met him twice. Shook his hand. I'm at a complete loss again and have wandered my house that I custom built for her for hours. I almost can't feel anything. What little that I am processing is just white hot rage. I logged on Snapchat and there it all was. I have called my best friend, who has been divorced 3 times. Don't get me started on his partner picker. He recommended a vicious lawyer. I plan on recording, saving everything. There's pics of them. I'm sure her phone or his has video. I desperately want this to be a bad dream. She said terrible things about me. She's told him my insecurities. She's told him I love you. They have made no long-term plans, so this feels like a purely sexual relationship. It almost makes it better, but also makes it so much worse. Like, she's literally throwing away our life for this. She knows cheating is an absolute deal breaker for me. Our usual routine on the day she leaves for her meetings is I take her to the airport and drop her off with a long goodbye. I can't even think about what I have to do now. My friend says print out the entire thing and see if I can recover things from Snapchat. From what I understand, I can't, unless I have her phone. My plan is to see the lawyer today. I'm paying a ridiculous amount to jump in her appointment line. Get the ball rolling and hopefully have a plan of action from her. I really want to book a flight and follow my wife to the hotel she's staying at and catch her in the act. I have access to her hotel booking options and have put myself as a contact person, so I can get a room key without alerting her. I think I'm just going to log into the messaging apps when I get into town and watch it happen in real time. If I could get the papers ready in time, I'd hand them to her. Instead, I'm just going to hand her the printouts. It's a 600-page PDF. His wife accepted my friend request. I'm debating sending everything now. I am seething. I just don't want to lose any advantage. I'm going to fly there Monday afternoon, log in, and see what they've talked about, get a room key to my wife's room, and drop off the package in a room with my wedding ring. I'm going to sit in the bar and watch my phone blow up. I'm going to call the AP and tell him to meet me in the lobby or bar and to bring my wife down. Then tell him that a similar package has been sent certified mail to his home addressed to his wife, as well as a Facebook message that I plan on hitting send on as I tell him. It feels petty and weak. I want to rage and scream, but I'm helpless. This morning, all I could do was give her a peck on the cheek goodbye. I really can't stand to look her in the eye. I somehow have to get through the weekend. I guess I'm asking, is my spiteful, hate-fueled plan worth it? I just want to inflict pain at this point. I want to hurt her emotionally. I feel eviscerated, emasculated. I will not entertain an apology. This is the one act that is unforgivable. It takes so many steps to cheat on someone. They all can be stopped until the sin is complete. Then it is done. Should I just confront her tonight or catch her? I don't think I'll update. I'm truly thinking about never using social media again and only being with a partner that has a similar outlook moving forward. ETA, I found the special toy. Keep in mind we have a chest full of adult fun devices. It was already in her carry-on. It's one of those remote control vibrators, the ones that can be controlled by an app. It looks expensive. I meet with the lawyer in 90 minutes. Update number 1. I met with a lawyer. She was actually kind, and I dare say compassionate with me. She told me point blank that her job was to represent me in this fight for my future, and my job in all of this was to tell her the complete truth and not make her job harder. I went to Kinko's and printed the file out. Cost $534 for color because I wanted to have the pictures pop. Shout out to Chris at Kinko's for not making a scene when the nudes started coming out. He asked what it was all about, so I told him. He was taken aback, but shook my hand and said sorry. I went home and crashed for about 3 hours, and soon-to-be ex-wife came home around 19:30, usual time. Lawyer said to forget any Hollywood confrontation in a hotel bar, that it would look pretty crazy and not becoming at all. So I'm sorry to all of those people that wanted the high drama. She's right, ultimately. There's 2 routes to take with divorce, contested or not contested. She said I would have to notify my soon-to-be ex-wife that I have retained counsel, and in order to proceed, my soon-to-be ex-wife would have to either contest the divorce or we would go through mediation and file from there. So, she got home about 2 hours ago. I asked her if there was anything going on that she wanted to talk about. She said nothing other than the election. She then asked what was bothering me. I wanted to cry, but truthfully, I was cried out. I said I was curious as to why she had a remote control vibrator in her luggage. The look on her face was actually more telling than anything I've ever seen. She looked panicked, pale. She began to breathe faster, sweat. I asked why she would have something like that. Who had the code and the app to it? She stammered and the tears began. As I pulled out my 3 file folders worth of text exchanges, I asked if the AP's wife would have it. She cried and pleaded that she could explain. I said she had 5 minutes to do it. Of course she couldn't. I told her that my attorney told me to tell her. I also told her to leave. She screamed it was her house too. I calmly told her that may be, but I would be notifying everyone about her affair and betrayal. That even the girls will know. Or she can leave now and find living arrangements for the time being. Hell, she'll be at her work conference for a week. She was speechless. I calmly pulled up Facebook and showed her the AP's wife. I said, do you want me to tell her, or are you going to do it right now? Tears and moaning and pleading with, I love you, and it wasn't supposed to go this far. Then my favorite, you can't do this. I said, well, it looks like I'm doing it, as I sent the AP's wife a message with the file of their escapades on it. I prefaced it with apologies and a brief explanation. I haven't heard back from her. I leafed through the stacks of paper and started reading random excerpts out loud to my soon-to-be ex-wife. I just wish we could spend the day attached to each other, just you inside of me. You feel so much more intense than any other woman I've ever been with. She is still sobbing and asked to talk about us. She says our marriage can withstand her mistake. I told her I would never forgive her. Her word is and that she threw away the last 17 years. I'm still entertaining the whole tell HR thing, and I'm going to tell everyone about her decision to end our marriage by cheating. Thank you to everyone who responded. I feel bad I couldn't respond to all the PMs and responses. I have a therapy appointment scheduled Tuesday. I kind of feel extremely elated. I'm shaking and incredibly low right now. I kind of want to die. The house is pretty quiet except for her crying and moaning. I told her not to come back after her trip. I'm currently sending friend requests and trying to get everyone on my page. I'm just going to send it out to everyone that way. I'm going to wait until the morning to call the girls. I raised them from when they were 11 and 6. They are women now, 28 and 23. I don't know what to tell them or how to handle them. Update 2. To those that kept saying, "That's not how Snapchat works," yes, you are correct. She had that running in the background. It was WhatsApp. I don't really give a I saw it. I again need to thank Dyson for their app and the kick-ass fan I got from my brother-in-law for Christmas. Here it goes. I'm going to give a deeper background on our situation to help with some perspective on why I feel the way I do. My original post was pretty much a stream of consciousness and felt as disjointed as I did then. I went to college in Las Vegas in the mid-90s. I graduated in 99. I had a blast there. I got around. It was during this formative time I decided to never marry. It is an outdated concept that essentially removes your agency, and I definitely did not want children. When I graduated with my degree in nursing, I quickly excelled in cardiovascular intensive care. I moved home to Texas in 2001 and pursued my master's degree to be an advanced practice RN, nurse practitioner, with a specialization in CV surgery. While I was achieving this, I decided to pursue medical school and shifted coursework to fill in what I needed to apply. It was then that I met my soon-to-be ex-wife. She was a short, chubby, I believe the kids today would call this thick, red-headed firecracker. We met in a code. It was intense, both the attraction and the dating. We were saying I love you within 3 months. She was a mother of 2, remember, I wanted to be child-free, that had been divorced for about 2 years. She was just getting out of an on-again, off-again relationship when we met. We dated for about 2 years, and she slowly introduced her daughters to me, 11 and 6. She sat me down one night and gave me a pretty heartfelt but pragmatic talk about us, or where we were at the time, and what she expected from me, or any other partner. Essentially, she said it was time to either get married or move on. I was still pretty anti-marriage, and she respected that. She was telling me this to give me a chance to think about us and what the future looked like. She had a pretty good point in that we were living together 8 months and even had each other as persons to notify in an emergency. She joked that all it was missing was having each other on our insurance. It was a good, honest talk, and we agreed that we would continue on for a bit more, but I would ultimately have to make the decision. 2 weeks later, I had an acceptance letter to a medical school about 2 hours away. I was ecstatic and crushed at the same time. I had just had my 26th birthday and was about to accomplish a huge life goal. Then I realized I'd never see her or the girls. My self-doubt got the better of me. Being a medical student, then resident, with a fellowship was going to be a roughly 7-year process. All the while, I could not make the money or support the lifestyle we had grown accustomed to. I thought about the prospect of at least 7 years of loans, debt, and work, and losing her. So I declined and switched back to a master's in nursing administration. We got married in July of 2003. It was an intimate and personal ceremony with just immediate family and friends. While my parents adore the girls, rightly so, they have always been standoffish with soon-to-be ex-wife. On Monday, when I told my parents what was happening and that there was a real possibility the girls could stop being as prevalent in their life as they have been, they told me that they still felt that soon-to-be ex-wife was damaged goods being married prior to and forcing me to compromise. That really hit home, and to a certain extent, they are correct. After I graduated, I didn't want to be a manager or director. I'm a hands-on guy that likes taking care of patients. The hospital I was at offered a certification in ECMO and a perfusionist credential. It was a highly competitive application, but I got in. For the past 11 years, I have been doing ECMO and all things related. I have had a blast, and it has been challenging as well as heartbreaking at times. My soon-to-be ex-wife decided about 5 years ago that being an RN on the floor had run its course, and she wanted a more 9-to-5 job that did not involve patients or drama. She got on through a friend at a multi-state legal consultancy that specializes in medical legal suits. She abstracts data from patients' charts and presents it in the manner requested. So that's the setup. On Saturday morning, D-Day +2, I only slept a few hours. I had dark, disturbing thoughts regarding my future and life. I had, still do, thoughts and scenarios of death and violence upon them and myself. I was in the kitchen making breakfast, eggs and toast, when she walked into the kitchen, still bleary-eyed. She asked if I would make her some. I threw it in the trash in front of her. I then proceeded to load up my record player and play music from my youth at an uncomfortable volume to prevent her from trying to talk to me. Real mature, I know. I began pain shopping, big time, reading the printout in chronological order. I do and I don't recommend it. By the afternoon, I was done with Black Fang and Danzig. I was listening to Torch breakup songs by Chris Isaak and Ray LaMontagne. She approached again. This time, she was almost indignant, asking what purpose notifying the AP's wife served. I stared at her for what felt like an inappropriate amount of time, a bit dumbfounded. I told her point blank that at least she, AP's wife, would get the chance to make an informed decision about her future instead of compromising and sacrificing for someone that would betray them so selfishly. I guess my message to the AP's wife was received, and things were not good for him. She sat down on the couch and began to tear up and sob. I told her I was cried out, and more correctly, I was so numb that I will do that later when I am done doing what needs to be done. She asked timidly, all indignation and bravado gone from her voice, what else I had to do. I told her to ruin your life and give you the pain I have now. I told her that if she had any respect for me or love me, she would open her phone and show me everything. She refused and said it didn't matter, and all I would do is hold it against her. I said there was a part of me, the completionist in me, that wanted to know. She refused and went to the guest bedroom. I found her HR new hire paperwork from her company. They have a corporate compliance line, and I called and left a detailed message. They, soon-to-be ex-wife and AP, had discussed client information that also had protected health information with an unsecured, non-approved messaging system. I also informed them that she was his acting supervisor on 2 projects over a certain time that corresponds with the sexually inappropriate messages. Lastly, I said that they both used their subsidized phones to transmit pornographic materials, pics, sexting, videos. That was a big no-no as well. My whole life, I have viewed myself as a peaceful and rational man. This has broken that part of me. I don't know where all of this anger has come from. I am somewhat worried. Like, will it stop? I know in the long run, to get over this, I will have to accept her apology and forgive her for her mistakes. I just don't know if I'm capable, and it is worrying to me. That evening, I continued to notify family and friends of the situation and her actions. I called a physician friend and requested a favor for a checkup and an STD check. He had questions. I answered. My eyes got heavy around 8. Sunday, D-Day +3. I decided to drive to see the girls. They're about 3 hours away. The youngest is still in college for another semester, maybe longer. Thanks, 2020. I have been having pretty extreme feelings about them since this began. I have formed a respectful, friendly relationship with them, but not much of a fatherly one. The oldest especially. We are cordial, but there's always that "you're not my dad" vibe between us. The youngest, not so much, but when they are together, it gets more prevalent. I left early Sunday around 5 a.m., arrived at their condo, their fathers pay for it, just after 8:45. I had collages and good coffee for them. They were immediately worried about their mother before I said anything. I told them point blank the situation and that their mother would probably be moving in the next 3 to 6 months. I can honestly say it was best to do and say this in person. I told them everything. They were disappointed in her. I then told them that I wasn't there to get them to take a side, but they were adults in a special circumstance within our relationship, and if they decided they didn't want to interact or have a relationship with me, that was okay. I would be somewhat let down, but also relieved. I told them, however, that our relationship or lack thereof should not interfere with their grandparents, my parents. They both agreed that they would like to definitely keep in touch with their grandparents. I left there around 11 and headed home. I stopped at my best friend's house and cried a little. I had essentially helped to raise them as best I could. Their father was absentee most of their childhood and started another family 6 hours away. My best friend decided that I had drank enough the past 72 hours and I needed to sleep. I crashed at his place that night. I had noticed soon-to-be ex-wife had been blowing my phone up after I left the girl's place. Oh well, I was too tired and in too dark a place to care. Monday, D-Day +4. I arrived home around 8 and noticed her Porsche was still there. I thought for a moment that she'd Ubered or Wazed to the airport. No, she had not. She was up and had breakfast made. She asked me to sit down and eat with her. I did. She asked how it tasted. I told her like static. I told her I've had a hard time tasting and feeling anything other than bitterness and anger for the past 5 days. She had called in sick at work and did not leave for her quarterly meeting. She tried to start talking about how worried she was for me and that she loved me so much. She had gotten a call from her oldest yesterday around noon, and they were deeply disturbed by her behavior. I laughed. As I did it, I realized it was not a funny laugh. It had a manic kind of feel to it and took me aback. I said, "Oh, you love me so much. You have a 1.5-year affair behind my back? You love me so much you some other married man? You love me so much you pissed away nearly half of my life because..." She had never given me a reason as to why she did it. I told her that, and it made it so much worse. I went to the liquor service and pulled out the bottle. The bottle was an 18-year Glenfiddich that my grandfather bought for us when we got married. It was our tradition to have a small sip on our anniversary night and remember that things get better with time and patience. I chugged the remainder of it. It was about a third of the bottle that was left. I said, sorry I didn't offer her any because she did not deserve any. I went to the bedroom and began pulling all of the pictures off of the wall that had us or her in them. I placed them on the kitchen table. She had left. My attorney, or rather her paralegal, called to notify me the petition for divorce was ready, and I needed to sign off on it before it could be filed and soon-to-be ex-wife would be served within 10 business days. I read it quickly, while very buzzed on premium scotch. E-signed and pressed send. I also got a message from the AP's wife. She reluctantly thanked me for this horrible but good revelation. She declined to speak with me, but wanted to message me to tell me. She found texts and videos with other women besides my soon-to-be ex-wife. She kicked him out and was going to an attorney soon. They live in California. He's I proceeded to listen to music and have a few more drinks. I fell asleep around 4 in the afternoon. I heard her come home around 10. She saw the pile of pictures and things that had at one time meant something to us. She began sobbing and asking me to talk to her. I only asked one question. Why? She kept saying she didn't know. I called her vile things and said that she made so many decisions to get to just the first text. It was she that started it. I was pretty loose with my tongue due to being drunk. I laughed at her and started taking off my clothes and said, "You threw away this," pointing to my body. I'm going to get for it, but I'm 6'4" and weigh 200 pounds. Up until last week, I still jogged and lifted weights 4 times a week for some pot-bellied needle-dick guy that wasn't going to do anything for her. I went to my room and had a shower. When I got out, she was in the bed naked. She had lit some candles and begged me to f*** her. I turned on my camera and told her to repeat what she said. I thank everyone who mentioned doing this, just in case. For whatever reason, my erection did not do a good job of convincing her that I didn't want it. So I did it. I was not kind. I put her in uncomfortable positions and pounded her. I told her I wanted anal, and I wanted to hear her beg me for it. I recorded it all. I felt so many mixed emotions after. I love her, and I'm indifferent to her. I hate her, and I think nothing of her. I want her and feel like I need her, but it hurts me to think of us anymore. We fell asleep together. I woke up kind of hungover and had a hard time looking at myself in the mirror. Tuesday, D-Day plus 5. Therapy was a 2.5-hour session. Unbeknownst to me, she followed me there and wanted to know what I was doing. I told her I was getting some therapy for the emotional trauma I had after realizing I had thrown away most of my life on someone who couldn't even give me a reason as to why she would cheat on me. I was a little loud and teary-eyed. My soon-to-be new therapist saw most of the exchange. I called her horrible names and told her I wished her dead. Needless to say, my session was intense. He prescribed some sedatives for me, and I had another shorter appointment scheduled on Thursday. We discussed my anger and betrayal, my emasculation, my fear of the future. I explained I'm terrified of the unknown. Last week, I felt like a complete man. I had a vision and goals. I also had a partner to deal with any issues and obstacles. Now, I am a ship without a rudder or mast. I feel no sense of direction or power or means to get away from this. He started explaining the why that I wanted to know. It isn't a single question. It is a series of questions that is pretty interesting. I suppose you can apply it to any behavior that you want to explain the motivation behind it. He said that instead, I should calmly ask my soon-to-be ex-wife what within herself gave her permission to do this to me. There were several more to follow up with, but this is what stuck out the most. I told him about the sex. He recommended that I lay out explicit ground rules regarding our physical relationship. He ultimately recommended that I don't do it anymore. It would confuse and exacerbate things tremendously unless reconciliation was my goal. I cried. I raged. I left exhausted. Soon-to-be ex-wife was still outside waiting for me. I walked past her and didn't respond to her questions and pleading. I got a call from the physician's office to get tested and went to that appointment. I told him the short version. He recommended to stop drinking and take the sedatives cautiously. I went home and proceeded to continue removing my things from the house and boxing them up. I've decided I would move out. I called work and requested a face-to-face meeting. The thought of working or concentrating on legitimate life and death issues is not possible in my current state of mind. I drove to the administrative building at the hospital, met with the team, and formally gave my 6 weeks resignation. I have such a niche, specialized job that 6 weeks is kind of a minimum courtesy. I put it succinctly that my soon-to-be ex-wife's actions had caused a stressful home life, and I would be a detriment to patients, the team, and myself if I continued to remain in this area. I have decided to move away, far away. I got home after picking up some groceries. It has been about a week since I have had more than a mouthful of food and have existed on liquor and not much else. I took both my therapist's and physician's friend's advice and decided to make some food and stop drinking. She was home, sitting in the darkened living room, drinking wine. She had organized the pictures and was looking through them. She had put on makeup and was wearing a date night dress. She had been crying a lot. Her makeup was in bad shape. She got up and tried to embrace me. I pushed her gently away and made a production of pulling out my phone and hitting record. She started crying again. She told me the AP's wife had called her and told her that he had had other women as well as her. She said that she was so much the fool and every derogatory name I had called her was right. She begged me to consider us. I said, why bother? She didn't when she betrayed me. I told her I was sorry that her lies caught her out, but I felt that she was sorry that she got caught, not remorseful for what she did to me. I told her I felt she was sorry that she was going to have to start over, and then she was more upset about that than losing any love she had for me. I said that she abandoned her love for me or us 2 years ago when she decided to do this. I kept piling it on her. I informed her of my call to the corporate compliance line and the specific rules she broke. I didn't raise my voice or act angry. I was shaking a bit, but it was like everything was leaving me in a rush. I felt elated and so low at the same time. I felt empty when I was done. I put up the few groceries I had bought and made a small sandwich, then went to bed. She was there again. I pulled out my phone and told her with the recorder going what my therapist had talked about in regards to sex. Keep in mind, in 17 years, I cannot recall a time when I've refused or declined sex from her. I asked her to leave and sleep in the guest bedroom. She refused. I said, fine, I would then. Wednesday, D-Day plus 6. I woke up and she was curled up next to me. I removed myself and did some light exercises. I have been working on my resume and getting applications out. I might be working in Seattle by the end of the year. I love my parents and will miss being 20 minutes away from them, especially as they are becoming elderly. I can't stay in this city. The thought of running into her after this is over is not something I want to entertain. I want to be free and have no reminders of my sense of loss and my lifetime of compromise. It was a pretty blah day, and it rained off and on for most of it. I met up with my best friend and gave him a rundown over an early dinner. We decided not to drink. My attorney said that me moving away will not affect the outcome of the financials. I'm going to live off my PTO until the end of October and use my half of our liquid savings to relocate and settle. I feel empty and I'm trying to laugh at his funny jokes, but it's an effort. I keep finding myself in a deep emptiness that has such a powerful pull. I have never thought about ending my own life, but for the past few days and nights, I've had daydreams of what it would be like if I wasn't here. I'm going to tell my therapist tomorrow. Soon-to-be ex-wife has been going to the library. I've been watching through Google and reading relationship books. I have been reading Chump Lady. It's great stuff. She got a call from her work. I eavesdropped on a small portion of it, but I know she has a meeting tomorrow, despite her claiming to be sick. She was in bed again, just like the past 2 nights. I am so conflicted. I just want to feel something, but I feel so little but hate and resentment for her that the only sex I want is sadistic. I'll admit that during the abusive sex we had Monday, I felt almost a runner's high, but there was a crash, and the next day I was angry at myself. I am doubting myself a small amount in regards to not wanting her back. I know she f***ed up huge, but I don't know if I can forget it or forgive it. I am a tangled mess. I told her the ground rules, with my phone recording, in regard to sex. I told her that it did not indicate reconciliation or some covert signal that I wanted that. I told her this is probably hysterical bonding and not healthy. I told her that I was going to not be gentle or care about her feelings or needs during it. She was teary-eyed and nodded understanding. She quietly said that she deserved it. She then rolled over and got on all fours. Thursday, D-Day plus 7. I woke up with her spooning me. I laid there for a while and heard her breathing change pattern. I could feel her looking at me. I asked with my back turned to her what her meeting was going to be about. She said it was an HR representative and it was probably going to be bad. I said, yep. She asked what she could do to make us right or equal again. I said nothing. She offered an open marriage on my end. She would not pursue anyone, but I could. I chuckled, no, I don't trust her. She said that was fair. We had this conversation with my back to her. It was easier than looking at her. I get mad when I see her face. I asked what I did in this marriage that made her so unhappy she did this. She said I was beyond great. I chuckled again. Well, obviously that doesn't matter. She said it was an adventure, like she lived off of the rush. She didn't realize until it was too late that if she got caught or if something went wrong, everyone would be hurt. She said it was a huge relief and an unforgettable pain when I confronted her. I got up and made us breakfast. I went to my therapist and told him my plan with work and already had responses to my applications. I told him everything about soon-to-be ex-wife and the sex. We discussed my suicidal thoughts and talked about the process involved with them. Again, he wasn't judging. He just wanted me to not get confused, or if I did not understand, to stop and process. It was only a 1 hour, 55-minute session, and I felt that weird calm again. Like nothing matters for now, everything just is. When I got home, she was sitting in the living room. She told me that she was fired for breach of protocol with client information and violation of the data security protocols. I said, "Oh, that's too bad." I exercised and made a nice dinner. She joined me. We didn't say much. While we were sitting in the living room, she told me that AP had been fired as well. I said, "Good." She told me she has had no contact with him in 5 days. I asked, why not? They were both free now. She could fly out to her soulmate and have all the fun they wanted now. She said I was the only one she wanted. I said, "No, you had all of me, and it still wasn't enough." I told her that in nearly 20 years of work and our relationship, I had been approached and hit on too many times to count. I managed to not fall in love or anyone else. Now, I am so bitter and angry because of the compromises I made. She asked what compromises. I told her. My wanting to go to medical school, but decided to get married and be stable. My not wanting children, but because they were a part of her, I accepted them and compromised. I said I made those compromises for our love, but obviously I had misplaced my trust and love in her. I told her that if I could go back in time, I would tell 26-year-old me to pass her up. She asked again what she could do to bring us back together. I told her that I will not ever compromise for her again, and that means we really can't have a healthy relationship. I told her I would never love her again, and that at best, I would treat her like a sex toy. Otherwise, she wouldn't factor into my plans or thoughts. I told her it was just a week ago. She was the first person I thought of when I woke up, and the last person I thought about when I went to sleep. Now, it hurts too much to think about her. I'm going to walk away from this. I feel like it is starting to constantly remind me of things. I cannot thank those kind people I could chat with and who shared their pain and stories that have helped me. This has been, on a whole, a good thing for me to do, but I keep replaying things and feelings I'd rather just walk away from. I remain confused about what I want. I don't know if I will ever be 100% about anything with her ever again. I have bi-weekly appointments for the next 4 years with my therapist. That was a tough read, OP. But ultimately, regardless of what happens, I hope you work as hard as you can to be as close to the person you were before this happened. It's clear that you're emotionally in such turmoil and suffering and fully expect it. Please keep up the therapy and avoid the destructive behaviors that are occurring, alcohol and the not eating, and try to find peace. More than anything, you need to find peace. Welcome to r/entitled people. Today, we have 2 stories of entitled bullies getting called out straight to their face. In this first story, an entitled girl gets humiliated by the rich girl at their school. This happened a few years ago at my high school in my 10th grade. Our school had decided to organize a trip to Washington for a week. It was expensive, but the school had a contract with a candy company to help us with the cost. It was pretty nice, and it really helped those who couldn't afford $2,500 for the trip. My friend's parents were going through a vicious divorce at the time. Her mother was a narcissist and loved to use her daughter to hurt her ex-husband. At the beginning of the year, both her parents were 100% supportive and even tried to help her by selling some of the candy at their jobs. However, after a while, her mom decided to change her mind and refused to help her and tried to take away her daughter's permission so she couldn't go. My friend was in tears and couldn't believe her mother would do this to her just because her father wouldn't budge on a pitiful thing. Her father tried to help her, but he had to pay his lawyer, his rent, etc. He couldn't give her the money. Her grandparents, on both sides of the family, helped her out as best they could. But 3 weeks before the end of the deadline, it was clear she wouldn't make it. She was still $800 short. My friend was devastated, and her relationship with her mother was in ruins. It was bad. Then enters V. EK. She was the of our year. She made fun of everyone, but my friend was her favorite target. After all, a lower middle-class student whose parents are divorcing and can't afford the trip? A golden target for her. She was relentless, and no matter how many times we told her off, or that she was never supported by anyone in our year, couldn't stop her. She was like a shark who smelled blood and was on a bloodlust craze. She was from a very wealthy family and liked to look down her nose at us middle-class peasants. Then there was M, rich girl. She was the daughter of a very, very wealthy father, the only girl. She was spoiled beyond belief by her absentee father. Her father gave her about $1,000 a month as an allowance. She was dressed in the best fashions and always had everything she wanted, except her father's attention. Yet, she was never bratty, rude, entitled, or awful. She was one of the nicest people you could meet. She never bragged about her money, as she saw this as crass and shameful behavior. She used $900 of her monthly allowance in investments for her college fund, despite her father's trust fund. The rest was used to either pay her cell phone bill or her expenses, which apparently wasn't much. She didn't care for luxury or money. She just wanted her father to actually spend time with her. M had paid off her entire trip in a single payment. She said her father didn't want her going door to door selling candies when he could just pay the trip himself. Plus, she wasn't comfortable doing it because of her shyness and her lousy selling skills. When news of my friend's financial troubles arrived, V was merciless to her and managed to make her cry, saying things like, "Go back to the ghetto, loser," or "You should try learning how to be a good whore so you can bag yourself a rich husband. I mean, how else would you be able to get anywhere in life? You're so poor." Unfortunately for her, M saw and heard everything. The next day, my friend and I are sitting at our table in the cafeteria, and who decides to pay us a visit if not V? She starts her usual garbage, and we try to ignore her, but it's so freaking hard. Then M arrives, with obvious Prada luggage and purse, and gives my friend a stack of papers, completely ignoring V, who acts like she can't believe anyone would ignore her glorious self. M: "Hi, A," my friend. "Mr. Teacher asked me to give you the stack of papers concerning the trip to Washington. He also said that the students are going to have a meeting this Friday after school." A: "But I'm not going. I don't have the money." V: "Yeah, she's too poor. Honestly, how stupid are you? And what are you doing with the bags? You stole them? You know they're fake, right?" M turns and tells V to shut the crap hole that serves her mouth because the sheer amount of BS coming from it is nauseating. Complete silence. No one has ever been this rude to V before. Her parents, who think she can do no wrong, would have destroyed them. M goes on to tell her that she can't just talk to people like that, and that the only reason she targets A is because she has no social life or friends due to her god-awful and toxic personality. V: "You can't talk to me like that. I'm better than you. My father's the VIP of X company and I'm rich. I can do whatever the hell I want. I'll destroy you, you..." M: "Yeah, I know, that's why I showed the video of you being an awful person to my father, who just so happens to be your father's boss. Or are you so entitled that you never notice me at the company's events? Your father is my father's employee and was very interested in the video I gave my father. Now piss off." M turns back to my friend and tells her that her entire trip was paid for by V's father as an apology for his daughter's behavior, as proven by the receipt for the trip in the stack of papers. M continues and says that V's father was so embarrassed that he gave A the luggage and purse that he was going to give V for the trip. He had asked me to give it to her because he knew that she would be happy to do it. V doesn't want to believe because there is no way her daddy would ever do this. M simply suggested that she call her father to check if it was true. V left and was not seen for the entire day. Turns out her parents were absolutely mortified by their daughter's behavior and refused to let her go on the trip. She had to publicly apologize to A in front of the whole class with her parents standing next to her to make sure she did as they told her to do. V did not come back after that year. She had been sent to a military school for problem kids. A ended up coming to Washington and got to live with her dad. M had asked her brother, who is a lawyer, to help A's father in the divorce settlement for pro bono. It was greatly appreciated because her mother had started to go crazy in the demands, and when she hadn't got her way, she had physically stuck A in rage. A and I are now in college and are very happy. A's dad is getting remarried. V, last we heard, got cut off from her parents and now has to live on social welfare because she doesn't have the skills to keep a job for very long. Something about not having the proper mindset or having a clashing personality with her coworkers. Wow, brilliant OP, great story, happy ending. I've met some great rich people, but I have noticed a huge difference between old money and the new money types. Old money types know they did nothing to deserve it and tend to be cool about things like picking up the tab. New money types tend to think they are better and more deserving than anyone. Old money doesn't brag or flash. They'll be wearing old, handmade shoes that they've been keeping up for years. Their bespoke clothing is never faddish. Their cars are never flashy. That's why they're old money. They don't throw it all away in a generation. In our second story, a poor lady had her service dog jump scared by some entitled kids, and she called them out to their faces. So, as the title states, I have a service dog. She's a trained medical alert dog, and she goes with me everywhere. Recently, I went on vacation with my family and my dog for the first time. She was amazing. We went to the beach so we could easily social distance and be outside and away from groups of people. One afternoon, I was sitting by the lazy river condo pool, alternating reading a book and scrolling through Reddit. Because I have a service dog, I don't actually float around the river, and I was lucky that this particular one had a little inlet with stairs I could sit and relax on. My girl was being lazy, watching me sleepily while she sat by on a towel. For the most part, people were pretty chill. There was one group of drunk people who barked at us but stopped when I asked them to, and the most adorable little girl who conveniently had to stop and fix her goggles every time she passed us. She was just respectfully looking at my girl, and seeing her face light up whenever she passed by made me so happy. There was also this group of 4 kids who were being pretty rowdy, but weren't bothering me at all. It was an older boy, OB, of about 14, a girl, EG, 12-ish, and 2 younger boys, EB1 and EB2, 9 or 10-ish. The younger boys had told me they liked my dog earlier in the day, but were otherwise leaving me alone. Until one time, they passed me and stopped a little bit in front of where I was sitting. I just smiled at them and continued to read my book as they talked amongst themselves, until I realized the younger boys had crept up right in front of where my dog was laying and were peering over the edge of the pool at her. Before I could ask what they were doing, EB1 yelled, "Now!" and he and EB2 sent a ton of water flying at my dog, which startled the hell out of her because she has been focusing on me completely, as she's trained to do. EG and EB1 and 2 just started howling laughing, and OB, who was obviously mortified, asked them why they did that and then started to walk away. This is how the rest of the conversation went. EG, EB1, and EB2 continue to act like splashing my dog is the funniest they've ever seen. Me, "Hey y'all, you might not realize this," stupid if true because my dog was clearly marked as a service dog and do not interact patches. But my dog is a service dog and is only here by the pool because she had a really important job to do. You splashing her with water like that was very mean, but also very dangerous because it distracted her from her job. Please leave us alone now. EB1 still giggling, "It's not that big of a deal. The dog will dry." Me, "I understand she will dry, but she alerts to changes in my heart rate. I could pass out if she misses an alert, and that's incredibly dangerous when I'm sitting in the water like this. The only reason I can even be in the pool by myself is because of my dog." EB2 rolling his eyes, "Your dog is fine." Me, "You know what? Y'all need to just go. What you did is serious enough in that state where we were. It is illegal to harass a service dog, and you could go to jail over it. It puts me in danger when you do things like that, and it's mean to my dog. Please leave us alone now." EB1 and EB2's eyes got wide when they hear the word jail. They start to walk away, but EG isn't done arguing. EG, "Look, your dog already laid back down. It's in the sun so it will dry really fast, and you didn't pass out anyway." Me, ignores her and picks up my now soaking wet book again. EG crosses her arms. "Well, I'm not the one who splashed the dog anyway." Me, "You could still get in a lot of trouble for just being there though. You should probably watch who you hang around and what you laugh at." EG turns her nose up at me and finally leaves me the hell alone. I thought about reporting the kids to security or finding their parents, but honestly, I just wanted to enjoy the rest of my day and they didn't end up bothering me again. They actually avoided me completely for almost the entire rest of the day. I figured my Karen moment had frightened and embarrassed them sufficiently enough that they would think twice before messing with a service dog again. When we were packing up our stuff to go inside, EG and her family passed us on their way out. I have never been side-eyed so hard by a child in my life, which is crazy to me because her parents were literally right there and I could have told them exactly what happened earlier. I hope those kids don't grow up to be as bratty as they seem like they will. Preteens are hands down my least favorite people to deal with in regards to my service dog. You did not act like a Karen. You educated them and didn't tell the manager or try to get them in trouble. You should be proud of how you handled this. I feel like many people would have freaked out and started shouting. Good on you. My wife gave birth to a black baby that clearly isn't mine, and I'm divorcing her, but I'm worried about the relationship between my 2 kids and their new half-sister. We're both white, so she was forced to admit that the child was a result of a one-night stand last year. I've started divorce proceedings, although we're still living together for now. Between our two boys, ages 2 and 4, I've had paternity tests for them, and they came back positive. Her infant daughter, and her having lost her job due to COVID, living together as amicably as possible until the divorce is settled is an unfortunate necessity. Naturally, I have no ill will towards the baby, and I've been disgusted by some of the comments I've heard from family members, friends, coworkers, and others, all who seem to be fixated on the racial angle of this. As if the most salient part of this isn't that my wife cheated, but that she cheated with a black man and that the baby is black. What really worries me is that my 2 sons might pick up on these narratives. They're too young to really understand what's happening now, but I'm worried that as they grow to understand the situation, that they might resent their half-sister for breaking up their parents' marriage. And worse, that their resentment might express itself in a racist fashion under the influence of the aforementioned racist narratives. Any thoughts on how I should try to influence my sons away from that perspective? It probably doesn't help that we live in a suburb with very few black people, and their half-sister is really the only black person my children know. Update 1. The big takeaway for me was that if I'd need to lead by example here, not excluding her in any way because of her paternity, so that she and my sons would see her as a full member of the family. Also, that I need to be more active in confronting the bigoted and ignorant nonsense I've been hearing, and teach my sons to do the same to protect their sister. I've spoken to some of those responsible since and made clear my feelings on this, and that she is to be treated as a member of the family. And that if I ever find out that they've said things like that to my sons or their sister, that they won't be allowed around us anymore. I've spoken to my wife about this, and we're more or less on the same page. She's been begging me to forgive her and not go through the divorce, but that's not going to happen. Even if I didn't consider the cheating unforgivable, I just don't feel any love for her anymore, other than a platonic affection for her as the mother of my children. My sons are handling this as well as can be expected. The 4-year-old doesn't fully understand, but is upset by the change in the household. Thankfully, he's easily distracted. The 2-year-old is thankfully too young to comprehend what's going on, but has definitely picked up on how withdrawn his mother has become. They're both fascinated with their new little sister, so there's that silver lining. My wife, on the other hand, isn't in good shape at all. She was depressed even before the birth, and now with everything, our divorce, her infidelity being revealed, and the backlash from family and friends, postpartum depression, and the exhaustion from raising an infant, she's barely functional. She's seeing a therapist, and I've been pressuring some of our family and friends to be supportive of her because even if they think she deserves it, her current state is making it harder for me and our children. It's become very obvious to me that even after the divorce is finalized, we're going to have to live together for a while longer. She's in no shape to be taking care of 3 kids without someone else around to support her, and I'm not willing to deprive her of her sons by seeking sole custody. It's also too difficult financially, since she's lost her job because of COVID. As for the baby girl, she's healthy and fairly easy by baby standards. Since I've been helping care for her, I've bonded with her, and I've discussed the possibility of adopting her with my wife. She can't contact the father, as the only thing she knows about him is his first name. And given our co-parenting situation, it feels like adopting her as my daughter would be the best outcome for all involved. However, there's been a wrench thrown in that plan. It was brought to my attention that there may be a way of finding the baby's father, namely by having her DNA tested by Ancestry DNA. If the father or one of his relatives has also taken the test, we may be able to find them through their DNA match database. If I'm being completely honest, I'm not happy about this. I've already started to think of the baby girl as my daughter, and having him in our lives would massively complicate the family dynamic. Plus, we live in Seattle, and she met him in Philadelphia, so God knows how they'd even make it work if he wanted to be the kid's father. However, I recognize that this is a selfish reaction. If we have a chance of finding her biological father, we owe it to her to do so, if only so that she has access to her paternal medical history and so that she can have a relationship with him if and when she chooses to do so. I've read a few accounts by children raised by non-biological parents, and a common thread is their desire to meet their lost biological parent. So that's that. We've ordered an Ancestry DNA kit for her, and I guess we'll decide our next steps once we get the results back in a couple of months. I'm glad to see the pieces are falling into place for you, OP, and ending up as well as they can in these horrible situations. Stay strong and live your best life, and be the best version of yourself you can be. Our next story is about my, male 24, long-term girlfriend, female 22, cheated on me, got pregnant, but everyone around me keeps pressuring me to stay with her. So we grew up together in a small town, known each other for our whole life, and eventually fell in love when she was 17 and moved to the city together 2 years ago. I work as a carpenter, and she's still at university. 2 weeks ago, she suddenly dropped the news that she's 3 weeks pregnant. I know for sure it cannot be mine because I always use protection and never have sex under alcohol or drug influence. I don't drink or smoke. So I pressured her, and she confessed that she slept with an exchange student during a school vacation trip. She said he's been hitting on her for weeks, but the sex was unplanned. That's why he didn't have condom prepared and she didn't have pills ready. And it's only a one-time thing, and she has no feeling for the guy anymore. I was totally shocked, but after a day, I decided that I can't stay in this relationship anymore. First, I am not ready to raise a child that is not my own. Second, I don't know if I'm able to forgive her for betraying me, at least not at the moment. So I break it off, ask my boss if I can stay at the worker rooms, for temporary workers, at the warehouse, and let my girlfriend stay at our place till she finds a house. I pay full rent because only I work. So eventually, our families and our mutual friends got the news, and now they are all pressuring me to get back with my girlfriend. Except for my sister who supports me. They say it's wrong to abandon her at a time like this. Especially my dad, who I had a fight with every 2 days because of this. He said he knows she's a good girl, just a young person's mistake, that I should stay with her and give the child for adoption. And my friends keep messaging me, convincing me to take her back. One of them even accuses me because I'm the reason she moved to the city, so it's my responsibility. Now I am heartbroken, lonely, and shattered. Feels like the whole world doesn't give me a single about how I feel. I just want to move to a new city and start everything from zero, but don't have the courage. Maybe some advice from you guys would ease the stress. OP, your friends are being ridiculous. Listen to me. It doesn't matter if it was a one-time thing. This girl cheated on you and then was hoping you wouldn't realize that you couldn't have got her pregnant. She was going to pretend like you were the father. She cheated and lied and was going to let you raise a child that isn't yours without you knowing. She only told you because you pushed. Kick her out of your apartment and tell her to go live with her baby daddy. You owe her nothing, and now she clearly isn't a nice person. And our final story of today's episode. My wife of 7 years cheated on me, and now everyone in my circle, friends, her parents, and my parents are suggesting me to take her back. I met my wife 10 years ago. We both were in college, dated for 3 years, and married for 7. She is a beautiful and amazing person, and everyone in my family loves her. 4 months ago, I found out my wife was having an affair with a mutual friend of ours. It was a 1.5-month affair. She was acting very shady at the time. She would ignore my messages, turn me down every time I tried to initiate sex. I thought something was wrong. I did snooping, but found nothing. Eventually, I hired a private investigator, and within 1 week, I had proof. She was having an affair with our mutual friend. I immediately confronted her. She confessed having an affair. Immediately, she started crying, begging, basically all the classic cheater moves when they are caught. I asked her for all the details, with a detailed timeline. At night, she gave me everything. Basically, she was using another phone for having an affair. She told me she had sex with him only 4 times, and the rest of the time, they were just hanging out and having fun. 3 days later, more crying and talking crap about herself, she told me that she had deleted all contacts with him and would do whatever it takes to make our marriage work. She suggested marriage counseling. I denied. I told her to leave me alone. I was hurt, betrayed, humiliated. She moved out to her parents. She started texting me every hour how much she loves me and how she regrets this and will do anything to save our marriage. After completely ignoring her for 2 days, I texted her that we are getting a divorce. She freaked out and started having an emotional breakdown. My phone started blowing up with her parents, sister, friends, telling me not to end the marriage and at least give her a chance. Later that day, she made a long post on Facebook explaining how she f***ed up and how she destroyed her marriage, basically admitting her affair publicly. But I was rock solid on my decision. She even insisted on having a lie detector test to clear my doubts, that she never cheated in the past, blah blah blah. I asked her for some time alone to process all this. We have been living separately since. This was all 4 months ago. Last week, I asked her for a divorce and she started crying, begging for another chance. After that, she visited my parents and asked them to convince me not to divorce. Last night, my parents and her parents tried to convince me to work things out. And after she made her Facebook post, almost all of our mutual friends were telling me how she was brave to admit her affair and that she loves me and I should at least give her a chance. I'm on the edge of having a breakdown. She is truly remorseful and regrets this. I can assure you this, I do love her and her cheating on me hurts the most. I don't know what to do. For anyone who is reconciled, how are things going? Update 1. We don't have kids. We were planning to have kids after this pandemic was over. We both own a business and we work together. I haven't talked to her in almost 3 months, only business related stuff. I decided, talked to my parents. I called them and told them that I was going for a divorce. An hour later, she called me crying not to end it, and told me at least meet her in person. Since the divorce day, I haven't seen her or talked about the affair. Every time we talked, I ignored the talk about the affair. She told me she'll explain everything, at least hear her side of the story, and after hearing it, whatever decision I'll take, she'll respect that. Since I don't know what was going on and don't have much information about the affair, it will be like closure for me. So I've decided to meet her on Sunday. That's it, nothing dramatic. Update 2. As decided, we both met on Sunday. She was quite miserable. I haven't seen her in a while. We talked about our relationship. I asked her to take down her Facebook post, which she did. I asked her about the affair, why she cheated on me. She told me that she was dumb and selfish at the time. She didn't blame me for the affair. She told me that they were casually talking and he started talking about his affairs. She showed me text messages of them both where he was bragging about his fun life outside of marriage. She told me she was curious and one thing led to another. There were several texts where he was guiding my wife how to hide the affair. He suggested she buy another phone and always keep it in the car. I took screenshots of everything. She then asked for her forgiveness. I forgave her, but I couldn't get past this. Divorce was my default option from the beginning. She begged to try marriage counseling. She also told me that she will never date anyone else ever again. If she does, it would be me. I don't really care. We'll still work together, as this is our both dream project. As for our mutual friend, last I heard was his wife and he decided to reconcile, as kids were involved. I really feel sad for his wife. She didn't know what kind of monster he is. We are getting a divorce. I've decided not to be in a relationship ever again. She acts sorry, but ultimately you only found out about this because you hired a PI. She had no intention of confessing it to you. I'm glad you're not giving her a second chance. Go find someone that can give you respect, and don't give up on relationships.